Jake Miller pushed through the crowded streets of Kepler Station with his hood pulled low over his face. The air smelled of engine fuel and sweat from too many people living in too small a space. Neon signs flickered in alien languages above his head while merchants shouted about their goods from every corner. This place existed at the edge of human space where laws meant nothing and credits meant everything. He checked his watch and walked faster toward the auction house. Rita Hayes had sent him a message 3 days ago with coordinates and a single word written in their old military code. The word meant someone needed help. Jake never ignored those messages, even when his bank account was nearly empty, and he could barely afford food. The auction house sat in the station's lower levels, where the lighting was dim and the crowd was rough. Jake paid the entrance fee to a large alien with too many arms and found a seat in the back row. The smell of unwashed bodies and illegal drugs filled the air around him. He had been to places like this before, but it never got easier to watch. A fat human in expensive clothes stood on the stage and called for attention. Behind him stood a line of people in chains. Some were humans who had gotten into debt with the wrong people. Others were aliens from worlds that had lost wars or suffered disasters. All of them looked broken and afraid. Jake watched each person get sold to the highest bidder. He memorized the faces of the buyers because Rita sometimes asked him to track down specific slavers. Most of the audience looked like wealthy collectors or crime bosses looking for servants they could abuse without consequences. Then she walked onto the stage and everything changed. The woman had silver hair that caught the lights even in the dim room. Her skin was pale but seemed to glow with health despite the chains around her wrists. She was tall and moved with grace even though she was clearly a prisoner. When she looked out at the crowd, her eyes were bright green and showed no fear at all. The auctioneer started talking about her special qualities. He said she was from a rare species that most people had never seen. He promised she would make an excellent servant for someone who appreciated beauty and exotic creatures. The bidding started at 10,000 credits. Jake felt his stomach twist as the numbers climbed higher. 20,000, 30,000, 40,000. He only had 8,000 credits to his name, and most of that was supposed to pay for repairs to his ship. But something about the way the woman stood straight and proud, even in chains, reminded him of his old squad members who had died because he made the wrong choice. The bidding reached 50,000 credits. The main buyers seemed to be a reptilian, alien in military uniform, and a human woman wearing jewelry worth more than Jake's ship. Both of them looked at the silver-haired woman like she was a prize they had to have. Jake stood up and raised his hand. 8,000, he called out. The crowd laughed. The auctioneer looked annoyed. Sir, the current bid is 50,000 credits. Your offer is not acceptable. I said 8,000, Jake repeated louder. He pulled out his credit chip and waved it in the air. That's all I have, but it's real money. The reptilian alien turned around and stared at Jake with yellow eyes. The human woman whispered something to her bodyguard who started moving toward Jake's seat. The silver-haired woman on stage looked directly at him for the first time, and something passed between them that he could not explain. Security, remove this person, the auctioneer said. 3 large aliens started pushing through the crowd toward Jake. He had maybe 30 seconds before they reached him. He looked at the woman on stage one more time and made his decision. Pulled the small explosive device from his jacket pocket and held it up where everyone could see it. Nobody move, he shouted. This place is full of illegal goods and wanted criminals. I just sent a signal to the Terran Federation patrol ship that's 2 hours away from this station. You can either let me walk out of here with the woman or you can all explain to the Federation why you're buying and selling people. The crowd started shouting and pushing toward the exits. The auctioneer dove behind his podium. The reptilian alien reached for his weapon but stopped when Jake activated the explosive device. A red light started blinking on it and everyone could hear the soft beeping sound. You're bluffing, the human woman said. There's no Federation ship within a day of here. Maybe, Jake said. But this bomb is real and it's big enough to take out half this level of the station. Do you want to find out if I'm crazy enough to use it? The woman on stage had not moved during all the shouting. She watched Jake with interest as if she was trying to figure out why a stranger would risk his life for her. When their eyes met again, she nodded slightly as if giving him permission to continue. Jake started moving toward the stage, keeping the bomb visible. The aliens who had been coming for him backed away. The reptilian alien kept his hand on his weapon but did not draw it. The crowd was getting smaller as people decided they did not want to be there when the bomb went off. "The keys," Jake said to the auctioneer. "Throw them to me." The fat man threw a ring of keys toward the stage. Jake caught them and climbed up to where the woman waited. Up close, he could see that her skin really did seem to glow with a soft light. Her eyes were larger than human eyes, and her ears came to slight points at the top. She was definitely not human, but she was the most beautiful person he had ever seen. "Can you run?" he asked quietly as he unlocked her chains. "Better than you can," she answered in a voice like music. The chains fell away, and she rubbed her wrists where they had left marks. Jake noticed that the marks were already starting to fade as if her skin was healing itself. He decided not to ask about that right now. "This way," he said and jumped down from the stage. They ran through the panicking crowd toward the exit. Behind them, Jake heard the reptilian alien shouting orders in his own language. Heavy footsteps followed them as they pushed through the station's corridors toward the docking bay, where Jake's ship was waiting. The woman ran beside him without any trouble, even though she was barefoot and wearing only the simple dress they had put on her for the auction. She seemed to know exactly where they were going, even though Jake had not told her. When they reached a junction in the corridor, she pointed left and said, "That way is faster." Jake trusted her, and they turned left. She was right. They reached the docking bay 30 seconds before their pursuers caught up. Jake's ship was a small freighter that looked old and beaten up, but had been modified with military-grade engines and weapons. He opened the hatch, and they both ran inside. "Can you fly one of these?" he asked as he started the engine sequence. "I can learn," she said, and sat down in the co-pilot seat. The ship lifted off just as armed aliens burst into the docking bay. Energy blasts hit the hull, but Jake's modifications held. They cleared the station and jumped to hyperspace before anyone could follow them. Only then did Jake realize what he had done. He had just spent his last credits and made enemies of some very dangerous people to save a woman whose name he did not even know. His ship was now the only thing standing between them and a very unpleasant death. He looked over at his passenger, who was studying the ship's controls with obvious intelligence. "I'm Jake," he said. She smiled, and it was like the sun coming up. "I am Luna. Thank you for saving my life." "Don't thank me yet," Jake said. "We're not safe until we're very far away from here." 3 days after leaving Kepler Station, Jake knew they were being followed. The scanner showed at least 4 ships tracking them through hyperspace, and they were getting closer. He had changed course twice, but the pursuit ships seemed to know exactly where he was going. Luna sat in the co-pilot chair, learning how to use the ship's systems. She was incredibly fast at understanding technology that should have taken weeks to master. Her fingers moved over the controls like she had been born to fly starships. Jake found himself watching her more than he should when he was supposed to be focused on keeping them alive. "They're still following us," Luna said without looking up from the navigation computer. "How do you know that?" Jake asked. He had not told her about the pursuit ships because he did not want her to worry. "I can feel them," she said simply, "like a cold wind on my back." Jake decided not to ask what that meant. Since rescuing Luna, he had seen her do several things that seemed impossible. Her injuries from the slave market had healed completely in 1 day. She could see clearly in darkness that left him blind. And sometimes when she touched the ship's computers, they seemed to work better than they should. "We need to stop for supplies," Jake said. "I know a place where we can hide for a while." The place was called Haven's Rest, a small mining colony on an asteroid in an empty system. The miners there asked no questions and accepted any currency, including favors and information. Jake had used it as a safe house before when jobs went wrong. They docked at the colony's small port, and Jake went to buy food and fuel. Luna stayed with the ship because her appearance would attract too much attention. While he was shopping, Jake heard other miners talking about strangers asking questions about a human man and an exotic woman traveling together. He bought what they needed quickly and returned to the ship. Luna was waiting in the cargo bay with a worried expression on her face. "We have to leave now," she said. "They found us." "How do you know?" Jake asked, but he was already starting the engine sequence. "Because they're here," Luna pointed toward the port entrance. Through the viewport, Jake saw armed figures in military armor moving toward their docking bay. They wore the black and red uniforms of the Viridian Syndicate. the same organization that had been selling Luna at the auction house. In the lead was the reptilian alien from Kepler Station. "That's General Vex," Luna said quietly. "He's the one who captured me in the first place." Jake felt a chill run down his spine. General Vex was known throughout this part of the galaxy as a slaver and warlord who controlled dozens of criminal organizations. If he was personally hunting them, then Luna was much more important than Jake had realized. The ship lifted off just as the Syndicate soldiers reached their docking bay. Energy blasts from their weapons hit the hull, but Jake's shields held. He pushed the engines to maximum power and they escaped into space with the pursuit ships right behind them. "Why is he so determined to get you back?" Jake asked as he programmed another jump to hyperspace. Luna was quiet for a long moment. Then she said, "Because I am not what you think I am." "What do you mean?" "I mean I am not just another slave they captured." Luna turned to look at him, and her green eyes seemed to glow in the ship's dim lighting. "I am someone who was betrayed by my own family and sold to prevent me from claiming what is mine by right." Jake stared at her. "What exactly are you claiming?" "A throne," Luna said simply. Before Jake could ask more questions, the ship shuddered as enemy fire hit their engines. The pursuit ships had caught up again, and they were firing heavy weapons that could destroy Jake's small freighter. Warning lights flashed on the control panel, and the ship dropped out of hyperspace. "Engines are damaged," Jake reported. "We can't jump again until I make repairs." Luna stood up and moved to the weapons control station. "Then we fight." "You don't know how to use those systems," Jake protested. Luna's hands moved over the weapons. Controls with the same easy skill she had shown with navigation. The ship's guns came online, and she fired back at their attackers with precision that would have impressed a military gunner. "How are you doing that?" Jake asked, while he worked on the engine repairs. "My people are very good with technology," Luna said as she destroyed one of the pursuit ships with a direct hit to its reactor. "Your people? What people?" Luna fired again and damaged another enemy ship before answering. "We are called elves by some species. We have been traveling between stars since before humans discovered fire." Jake nearly dropped his repair tools. Elves were myths and legends told in stories. No human had ever seen one in real life. They were supposed to be magical beings with advanced technology who lived somewhere far away from human space. "That's impossible," Jake said. "Is it?" Luna asked. She gestured toward the weapons display where she had just destroyed 2 more ships using systems that Jake barely understood. "Is anything about me normal for your experience?" Jake thought about her healing ability, her knowledge of technology, and the way she seemed to know things she should not know. He also thought about how beautiful she was in a way that did not seem quite human. "If you're an elf, then why were you being sold as a slave?" he asked. Luna's expression became sad. "Because my cousin wanted the throne that should be mine. He made a deal with General Vex to have me captured and sold where I could never return to claim my birthright." "What throne?" "I am Princess Luna, of the Silverleaf Dominion," she said while firing at another enemy ship. "My grandmother is the queen of 30 billion elves living in 12 star systems. When she dies, I am supposed to rule in her place." Jake sat down heavily in his pilot chair. He had rescued an alien princess. No wonder General Vex wanted her back so badly. An elven princess would be worth more than most planets to the right buyer. "Why didn't you tell me this before?" he asked. "Because you saved me when you thought I was nobody special," Luna said. "I wanted to know what kind of person you really are." The last enemy ship was retreating now that Luna had destroyed most of their attack force. She had fought like a trained warrior while explaining that she was royalty. Jake's head was spinning, trying to process everything she had told him. "So what happens now?" he asked. "Now we run," Luna said. "General Vex will bring more ships, and my cousin will send assassins to make sure I never make it home." "And where is home exactly?" Luna showed him a star chart on the navigation computer. The Silverleaf Dominion was marked in a region of space that human explorers had never reached. It was thousands of light years away through dangerous territory controlled by hostile aliens. "It will take months to get there," Jake said. "And I don't have enough money for fuel and supplies for that kind of journey." "I know," Luna said. "But I also know that humans are capable of achieving impossible things when they decide something is important enough." Jake looked at her, sitting in his co-pilot chair with her silver hair shining under the ship's lights. 3 days ago, he had been a broke mercenary with no purpose in life. Now he was traveling with an elven princess who was asking him to help her reclaim a throne. "Why me?" he asked. "You could have waited for someone with money and a better ship to rescue you." Luna smiled and reached over to touch his hand. Her skin was warm and seemed to tingle with energy. "Because you risked everything to save someone you thought was just a slave," she said. "That tells me you have something more valuable than money or weapons." "What's that?" "Honor," Luna said. "And that is what I need most if I am going to take back what was stolen from me." Jake looked at the star chart showing the impossible distance to the Silverleaf Dominion. Then he looked at Luna and saw something in her green eyes that made him believe they could actually make the journey. "All right," he said, "but we're going to need help." Luna squeezed his hand gently. "I know someone who might be willing to help us. But first, we need to get word to my grandmother that I am still alive." Jake programmed their next jump while Luna composed a message in a language he could not read. The symbols seemed to glow on the screen as she typed them. When she was finished, she looked at him with an expression he could not identify. "What is it?" Jake asked. "I just realized something," Luna said quietly. "What?" "By helping me, you have started a war that will decide the fate of 2 civilizations." Jake stared at her for a moment, then started laughing. "Well," he said as he activated the hyperspace jump, "I always wondered what I would do with my life if I had the chance." As they jumped into hyperspace, Jake realized that saving Luna had been the easy part. Getting her home alive was going to test every skill he had learned as a soldier and everything he believed about doing the right thing. 2 weeks after learning Luna's true identity, Jake brought their damaged ship to New Haven, a neutral colony world where no government had authority. The planet was covered in forests and small settlements where people came to escape their past lives. Jake hoped they could hide there long enough to make repairs and plan their next move. They landed at a small spaceport outside a town called Green Valley. Jake was checking the ship's damaged engines when Luna suddenly grabbed his arm and pointed toward the forest. "Someone is coming," she said urgently. Jake looked but saw nothing among the trees. Then a figure stepped out of the shadows and walked toward their ship. It was a woman with the same silver hair and pointed ears as Luna. She wore dark clothing and moved with the grace of a trained fighter. "Zara," Luna whispered and ran toward the newcomer. The 2 elves embraced like sisters who had been separated for years. They spoke rapidly in their own language while Jake watched from beside his ship. Finally, Luna turned and brought her friend over to meet him. "Jake, this is Zara, my personal guard and closest friend," Luna said. "Zara, this is Jake Miller, the human who saved my life." Zara studied Jake with sharp blue eyes that seemed to see right through him. She was smaller than Luna, but carried herself like someone who could kill with her bare hands. "So you are the one who has been protecting our princess," Zara said in accented English. "The Syndicate has put a very large bounty on your head." "How large?" Jake asked. "Enough to buy a small moon," Zara replied. "General Vex is very angry that you destroyed his ships and stole his most valuable prisoner." Luna stepped between them. "Jake is not just protecting me for money, Zara. He saved me when he thought I was just another slave." Zara looked surprised. "He did not know who you were?" "I told him 3 days ago," Luna said. "He could have sold me back to the Syndicate for enough credits to live comfortably for the rest of his life. Instead, he chose to help me get home." Something in Zara's expression softened slightly when she looked at Jake again. "Then you are either very noble or very foolish human." "Probably both," Jake admitted. Zara's news was not good. Queen Victoria, Luna's grandmother, was dying faster than expected. The royal doctors said she had maybe 2 months to live. If Luna did not return before the queen died, her cousin Prince Darius would be crowned as the new ruler. "Darius has convinced many of the nobles that you are dead," Zara explained. "He says the humans corrupted you and that elven blood should not be mixed with inferior species." Jake felt a cold anger growing in his chest. "Inferior species?" "My cousin believes that elves are naturally superior to all other forms of life," Luna said quietly. "He thinks contact with other species makes us weak. That's why he made the deal with General Vex," Zara continued. "He wanted you gone permanently so he could rule without opposition." Many nobles support him because they fear change. Luna walked to the edge of the forest and stared toward the sky. How many ships does he control now? Half the royal fleet, Zara answered. The other half remains loyal to your grandmother, but they will not act without clear orders from the queen. Jake listened to this conversation with growing understanding of how complicated the situation really was. Luna was not just trying to reclaim a throne, she was trying to prevent a civil war that could tear apart an ancient civilization. There's something else, Zara said reluctantly. The Terran Federation has been trying to make contact with our people for months. What? Jake looked surprised. The Federation knows about elves? Their intelligence services discovered evidence of our existence from captured syndicate records, Zara explained. They sent an ambassador named Kate Wilson to request a meeting with Queen Victoria. Luna turned around with interest. What did my grandmother say? She refused to see any humans, Zara said. Prince Darius convinced her that humans are too primitive and aggressive to be trusted. He said they would try to steal our technology and use it for war. Jake felt frustrated hearing this. The Federation was not perfect, but they were not the monsters that Prince Darius made them sound like. Many Federation worlds were peaceful and prosperous. What if I could prove that humans can be trusted? Jake asked. Both elves stared at him. How? Luna asked. By helping you win back your throne, Jake said. If a human risks his life to restore the rightful queen, then maybe your people will see that we're not all bad. Zara laughed bitterly. One human will not change thousands of years of isolation and suspicion. Maybe not, Jake agreed. But it's a start. Luna walked back over to them with a thoughtful expression. There might be a way to make contact with the Federation ambassador. If we could arrange a meeting between her and my grandmother before Darius becomes king, it might change everything. The queen will not see any humans, Zara repeated. She will if I ask her to, Luna said firmly. I am still her heir, and she loves me. If I can get home alive, she will listen to what I have to say. Jake was starting to understand Luna's plan. She wanted to use her influence with the queen to create an alliance between elves and humans. But first they had to get her home through space controlled by hostile forces. How do we contact this ambassador? Jake asked. Zara pulled out a small device that looked like a cross between a communicator and a piece of jewelry. I have been monitoring Federation communications. Ambassador Wilson is currently aboard a diplomatic ship called the Starlight, waiting at the edge of elven space for permission to enter. Can you reach her? Luna asked. Possibly, Zara said, but any message we send will be intercepted by Prince Darius's forces. He has spies everywhere. Jake had an idea. What if we don't send a message? What if we go to her instead? The Starlight is 3 weeks away through dangerous territory, Zara pointed out. And General Vex has ships patrolling all the likely routes. Then we don't take a likely route, Jake said. We go through the Void Nebula. Both elves looked at him like he was insane. The Void Nebula was a region of space filled with radiation storms and gravitational anomalies that destroyed most ships that tried to cross it. That's suicide, Zara said flatly. Maybe, Jake admitted. But it's also the last place anyone would expect us to go. Luna studied Jake's face carefully. You really think we can make it through the nebula? My ship has military-grade shields and navigation systems, Jake said. And I've flown through dangerous space before. The real question is whether you trust me enough to try. Luna reached out and took his hand. The touch of her skin sent warmth up his arm and made his heart beat faster. I trust you with my life, she said simply. Zara shook her head. This is madness. Even if we survive the nebula and reach the Federation ship, what then? How do we get past Prince Darius's forces to reach the Queen? We convince the Federation to help us, Luna said. Ambassador Wilson wants to make contact with my people. I can offer her something much better than a meeting with a dying queen. What? Zara asked. An alliance with the rightful ruler of the Silverleaf Dominion? Luna said. Together we can stop Prince Darius from taking power and creating a war between our civilizations. Jake looked at Luna with new respect. She was not just trying to reclaim her birthright, she was trying to prevent a conflict that could destroy millions of lives. All right, he said. Let's go find Ambassador Wilson. They spent the next day preparing for the dangerous journey through the Void Nebula. Zara helped Jake repair his ship's engines while Luna calculated the safest route through the radiation storms. Working together, they installed additional shielding and backup systems that might keep them alive if something went wrong. As they prepared to leave New Haven, Jake realized that his feelings for Luna had grown stronger during their time together. She was beautiful and intelligent and brave, but she was also a princess who would someday rule an empire. He was just a human mercenary with a damaged ship and an uncertain future. "What are you thinking about?" Luna asked as they finished loading supplies. "Nothing important," Jake lied. Luna smiled and touched his cheek gently. "You're thinking about what happens after we reach my grandmother, aren't you?" Jake nodded without speaking. "I've been thinking about that too," Luna said quietly. "And I've decided that some things are more important than tradition or what other people expect." "What do you mean?" "I mean that saving my people is important, but so is choosing who I want to share my life with," Luna said. "And I choose you, Jake Miller, whether you're human or elf or something else entirely." Jake felt his heart jump in his chest. "Luna, don't say anything yet," she interrupted. "Just promise me that we'll have this conversation again after we save my kingdom." "I promise," Jake said. Zara watched this exchange with an expression that was hard to read. Finally, she said, "If you two are finished making eyes at each other, we should leave before someone tracks us here." As they lifted off from New Haven, Jake realized that Luna had given him something to fight for beyond just doing the right thing. She had given him hope for a future he had never imagined possible. The Void Nebula lay ahead of them like a wall of swirling gas and lightning. Beyond it waited Ambassador Wilson and the possibility of preventing a war between two civilizations. Behind them, General Vex and Prince Darius were mobilizing their forces to stop them from reaching safety. The journey through the Void Nebula nearly killed them 3 times. Lightning storms the size of planets tore at their shields, while gravitational waves threatened to crush their ship like an empty can. Jake flew by instinct and luck for 18 hours straight, while Luna and Zara worked frantically to keep their systems running. When they finally emerged on the other side, the Federation diplomatic ship Starlight was waiting exactly where Zara had predicted. The massive vessel looked like a floating city compared to Jake's small freighter. Ambassador Kate Wilson agreed to meet with them after Luna proved her identity using genetic codes that only Elven royalty possessed. Ambassador Wilson was a middle-aged woman with sharp eyes and a politician's smile. She listened carefully as Luna explained the situation with Prince Darius and the threat of civil war in Elven space. "So you're offering an alliance between the Federation and the Silverleaf Dominion in exchange for our help restoring you to the throne," Wilson summarized. "I'm offering peace between our peoples instead of the war that my cousin will certainly start," Luna corrected. "Darius believes humans are a threat that must be eliminated before we contaminate Elven purity." Wilson leaned forward with interest. "And what do you believe, Princess?" Luna glanced at Jake before answering. "I believe that working together makes both our civilizations stronger. Humans have qualities that elves lack, just as we have knowledge that could benefit humanity." "What kind of knowledge?" Wilson asked. Luna gestured, and a holographic display appeared in the air above the meeting table. It showed star charts and technical diagrams that made Wilson's eyes widen with surprise. "Faster than light travel that doesn't require weeks to cross between systems," Luna explained. "Medical technology that can heal injuries in hours instead of months. Energy sources that could power your colonies for thousands of years without pollution." Jake watched Wilson try to hide her excitement. This was exactly the kind of breakthrough that the Federation had been hoping for when they first learned about Elven civilization. "And in return?" Wilson asked. "Safe passage home for me and my companions," Luna said. "Plus Federation support when I challenge Prince Darius for the throne." Wilson was quiet for several minutes, clearly weighing the political implications of what Luna was asking. Finally, she said, "I'll need to consult with my government, but I think we can reach an agreement." 2 days later, a Federation fleet of 12 ships escorted Jake's freighter toward Elven space. Admiral Sam Carter commanded the force from his flagship, the heavy cruiser Independence. Jake found himself appointed as a special advisor because he was the only human who understood the situation inside the Silverleaf Dominion. "How many ships does Prince Darius control?" Admiral Carter asked during a strategy meeting. About 200, Zara answered. But they're spread across multiple star systems. He can't bring them all together without leaving important worlds undefended. And the ships loyal to Queen Victoria? Maybe 150, Luna said. But their commanders won't act. Without direct orders from my grandmother, and she's too sick to give clear commands. Jake studied the tactical displays showing Elven territory. So we're outnumbered and facing an enemy who controls half the royal fleet, plus whatever ships General Vex can provide. The Syndicate fleet adds another 50 ships, Zara confirmed grimly, and they're equipped with stolen Federation weapons. Admiral, Carter looked concerned. This is going to be much harder than we thought. Not if we can reach Queen Victoria before Darius consolidates his power, Luna said. Once she sees proof that humans can be trusted allies, she'll give the loyal fleet permission to fight. The plan was to split their forces. Admiral Carter would take most of the Federation ships to engage Prince Darius's fleet and draw them away from the Elven capital world. Meanwhile, Jake would take a small force directly to Avalon Prime, where Queen Victoria waited in the royal palace. You realize this is probably a suicide mission, Admiral Carter told Jake privately before they separated. Even if you reach the planet, you'll be vastly outnumbered. Luna is counting on me, Jake replied. I'm not going to let her down. The first battle happened 3 days later when they encountered a Syndicate patrol fleet guarding the approach to Elven space. General Vex himself commanded the enemy force from a massive dreadnought that bristled with weapons. Jake watched from his ship's bridge as Federation and Syndicate vessels exchanged fire across thousands of kilometers of space. Energy beams and missile explosions lit up the darkness like a deadly fireworks display. Admiral Carter's tactical skills proved superior to anything the Syndicate expected, and within hours the enemy was retreating with heavy losses. But the real fighting began when they entered the Silverleaf Dominion itself. Prince Darius had prepared well for civil war. Elven ships appeared from hidden bases and attacked without warning. Unlike the crude Syndicate vessels, these ships used advanced technology that made them incredibly dangerous opponents. Jake found himself commanding a mixed force of Federation ships and loyal Elven vessels in running battles across multiple star systems. The Elven commanders were initially suspicious of taking orders from a human, but Jake's tactical knowledge and Luna's support gradually won their respect. Your people fight with great courage, Commander Elena Vasquez told Jake after a particularly difficult battle. But they lack experience with this kind of warfare. They've been peaceful for too long, Luna explained. Prince Darius has spent years preparing for this conflict, while the loyal forces believed diplomacy could solve everything. As they fought their way toward Avalon Prime, Jake began to understand the true scope of Elven civilization. Their cities floated in the clouds of gas giant planets. Their space habitats were disguised as asteroids and comets. Some of their weapons could disrupt the gravitational fields of entire solar systems. How did humans never discover any of this? Jake asked Luna during a brief rest between battles. Because we didn't want to be found, Luna answered. My people learned long ago that contact with other species usually leads to war and exploitation. We've been hiding for thousands of years. But you're willing to change that now? Luna nodded. I've seen what humans are capable of when they choose to help instead of conquer. You risked everything to save someone you barely knew. That gives me hope that our peoples can work together. The final approach to Avalon Prime was the most dangerous part of their journey. Prince Darius had positioned his strongest forces around the capital world, including ships equipped with planet-killing weapons. Jake's small fleet was hopelessly outnumbered, but they had to reach Queen Victoria before she died. There, Zara pointed to the tactical display. The royal palace is in that city floating above the northern continent. Jake could see it through the viewport, a beautiful structure of crystal and metal that seemed to glow with its own light. It was surrounded by defense platforms and patrol ships loyal to Prince Darius. How do we get through all that? Commander, Vasquez asked. We don't, Jake said. I go alone. That's insane, Luna protested. You'll be killed before you reach the atmosphere. Not if I use a stealth approach, Jake explained. My ship is small enough to slip past their sensors if I'm careful. Luna grabbed his arm. I'm going with you. It's too dangerous, Jake said. If something happens to you, this whole war is for nothing. If something happens to you, I don't care about the war, Luna replied fiercely. We stay together. Jake looked into her green eyes and saw determination that matched his own. All right, he said, but we do this my way. They launched from the Federation fleet in Jake's freighter, while the larger ships created a distraction by attacking Prince Darius's outer defenses. Jake used every trick he had learned as a military pilot to avoid detection, flying through asteroid fields and using the planet's magnetic field to mask their approach. They almost made it to the palace undetected. Then an elven patrol ship spotted them just as they entered the atmosphere. Warning sirens began sounding across the capital city, and fighter aircraft scrambled to intercept them. So much for stealth, Jake muttered as he pushed his engines to maximum power. Energy blasts filled the air around their ship as they dove toward the floating palace. Jake's military training took over, and he flew like his life depended on it, which it did. Luna worked the defensive systems with deadly precision, shooting down fighters that got too close. They crashed into the palace's landing bay with their ship on fire and systems failing. Jake and Luna stumbled out of the wreckage, just as Prince Darius's soldiers surrounded them with weapons drawn. "Well, well," a cold voice said from the entrance to the landing bay. "My dear cousin finally comes home." Prince Darius walked toward them, flanked by elite guards in golden armor. He was tall and handsome in the way that elves often were, but his eyes held a cruelty that made Jake's skin crawl. "Hello, Darius," Luna said calmly. "You're looking well for someone who's been committing treason." Prince Darius laughed. "Treason? I'm saving our people from contamination by inferior species." He looked at Jake with disgust. "This human has obviously corrupted you beyond redemption." "Jake saved my life," Luna said proudly. "Something you tried very hard to prevent." The palace shook as explosions from the space battle above rattled the floating city. Prince Darius steadied himself against a wall while keeping his weapon pointed at Luna and Jake. His golden armored guards remained in position around the landing bay, blocking any chance of escape. "Your human fleet is being destroyed as we speak," Darius told Luna with satisfaction. "Soon I'll have both your head and proof that humans are too dangerous to be allowed to live." Luna stepped forward despite the weapons aimed at her. "The Elven Council must witness any challenge to the succession. You know the law, cousin." "The law?" Darius laughed coldly. "I make the laws now. The Queen is dying, and the Council follows my orders." "Then you're a coward as well as a traitor," Luna said loudly enough for the guards to hear. "You're afraid to face me in fair combat because you know the people will see who the real heir should be." Several guards exchanged glances. Jake could see that Luna's words were having an effect. Elven tradition was clearly important even to soldiers who served Prince Darius. "Watch your tongue, cousin," Darius snarled, "or I'll cut it out before I kill you." "The law of succession requires trial by combat when two royal heirs dispute the throne," Luna continued. "Unless you're too weak to face a woman in battle?" Darius's face flushed with anger. Jake realized that Luna was deliberately provoking him, using his pride against him. It was a dangerous gamble, but their only chance of reaching Queen Victoria. "Fine," Darius said through gritted teeth. "Trial by combat it is, but when I kill you in front of the council, no one will ever question my right to rule." The guards escorted them through corridors filled with beautiful artwork and glowing crystals that provided soft lighting. Jake had never seen architecture like this. The palace seemed to be grown rather than built, with walls that curved like living wood and ceilings that sparkled like star fields. They entered a vast circular chamber where the Elven Council waited. Dozens of elderly elves in ceremonial robes sat in tiered seating around a central arena. At the head of the chamber, on a throne carved from a single massive diamond, sat the most beautiful and ancient woman Jake had ever seen. Queen Victoria looked exactly like Luna, but with silver hair that seemed to contain actual starlight. Despite her obvious illness, her presence filled the room with authority that made even Prince Darius bow slightly when he approached. "Grandmother," Luna said softly and knelt before the throne. The Queen's eyes widened when she saw Luna alive. "My granddaughter," she whispered, "they told me you were dead." "I was betrayed and sold to slavers," Luna said, "but this human saved me and brought me home." She gestured toward Jake, who tried to look worthy of the Queen's attention. Queen Victoria studied Jake with eyes that seemed to see into his soul. "You are the one who risked everything for my granddaughter when you thought she was merely a slave?" "Yes, Your Majesty," Jake said. "Though I'm starting to think nothing about Luna is merely anything." A slight smile crossed the Queen's face. "Indeed. And you seek nothing in return for this service?" Jake glanced at Luna before answering. "Only the chance to continue serving her, if she'll have me." "Enough," Prince Darius interrupted. "The humans' motives don't matter. Luna has invoked trial by combat, and I accept. When she's dead, her opinions about humans will be irrelevant." Queen Victoria raised her hand for silence. "Very well. Let the trial proceed according to ancient law. The winner will be recognized as my heir and the next ruler of the Silverleaf Dominion." The council members began chanting in the Elven language, while servants brought weapons to the arena floor. Luna chose a sword that seemed to be made of crystallized light, while Darius selected a longer blade with a dark metal finish. Jake wanted to protest that this was madness, but he could see the determination in Luna's eyes. She had been training for this moment her entire life, and this was the only legal way to claim her throne. "Begin!" Queen Victoria commanded. Prince Darius attacked immediately, trying to end the fight with overwhelming force. His blade whistled through the air where Luna's head had been a split second before. She was faster than Jake had expected, moving with inhuman grace and speed. The two elves circled each other while their weapons created sparks of energy with each clash. Darius was stronger and had longer reach, but Luna was quicker and seemed to anticipate his attacks before he made them. "You cannot win, cousin," Darius said as he pressed his attack. "I have been enhanced with syndicate biotechnology. I am faster and stronger than any natural elf." Jake felt his blood run cold. If Darius had been artificially enhanced, Luna might not be able to defeat him in fair combat, but she seemed unconcerned by this revelation. "You call that enhancement?" Luna laughed as she dodged another strike. "I call it corruption." She began fighting more aggressively, and Jake saw something in her style that reminded him of human military techniques. She was using tactics he had taught her during their journey, combined with elven grace and speed. The battle raged for 20 minutes, with neither fighter gaining a clear advantage. Both were wounded and breathing hard when Darius made a desperate gambit. He threw his sword aside and pulled a small energy weapon from his belt. "Cheater," Luna said calmly, and threw her own sword with perfect accuracy. The crystalline blade pierced Darius's chest before he could fire. He fell to his knees, with a look of shock on his face, the energy weapon clattering across the arena floor. "Impossible!" he gasped. "I was enhanced! I was supposed to win!" "You were enhanced with technology," Luna said as she walked over to retrieve her sword. "I was enhanced with wisdom from someone who understands that honor matters more than power." She looked directly at Jake as she said this, and he felt his heart swell with pride and love. Prince Darius collapsed and lay still. The council chamber was silent, except for the distant sounds of the space battle continuing above them. Queen Victoria rose slowly from her throne and walked down to the arena floor. Despite her obvious weakness, she moved with the dignity of someone who had ruled wisely for centuries. "The trial is concluded," she announced to the council. "Princess Luna has proven her right to rule through combat and courage. I name her as my successor and heir to the Silverleaf Dominion." The council members stood and bowed toward Luna, who knelt again before her grandmother. "Rise, Queen Luna," Victoria said softly. "Your people need you now more than ever." As Luna stood, Jake noticed that the sounds of battle from outside had suddenly stopped. Through the chamber's crystal windows, he could see Federation and Elven ships no longer firing at each other. "The fighting has ended," Queen Victoria observed. "Your arrival seems to have convinced the fleet commanders that the legitimate ruler has returned." Ambassador Wilson's voice came through the palace communication system. "This is the Federation diplomatic ship Starlight requesting permission to land. We have wounded who need medical attention." Luna looked at her grandmother, who nodded approval. "Permission granted," Luna replied. "All Federation ships are welcome in Elven space." Over the next few hours, Jake watched Luna transform from the refugee he had rescued into the leader her people needed. She issued orders to fleet commanders, arranged medical care for the wounded, and began organizing the transition of power from her grandmother. Ambassador Wilson arrived with a delegation of Federation officials who were clearly amazed to find themselves in the elven capital. Luna conducted negotiations with the same skill she had shown in combat, creating the framework for an alliance that would benefit both civilizations. General Vex is retreating with what's left of the Syndicate fleet, Admiral Carter reported, but he's sworn revenge against both our peoples. Let him come, Luna said confidently. The combined fleets of elves and humans will be more than capable of dealing with slavers and criminals. As the day wore on, Jake found himself wondering what role he would have in this new world Luna was creating. He was just a human mercenary, while she was the queen of an interstellar empire. That evening, Luna found him standing alone on a balcony overlooking the capital city. The floating buildings were lit with soft elven lights that made everything look magical. "What are you thinking about?" she asked as she joined him at the railing. "Whether there's a place for someone like me in your new kingdom," Jake answered honestly. Luna smiled and took his hand. "I've been thinking about that too. I need someone I can trust completely to command the joint fleet operations with the Federation. Someone who understands both human and elven ways of thinking." "You want me to be an admiral?" Jake asked in surprise. "I want you to be my partner in everything," Luna said. "Ruling an empire is too big a job for one person, even if she is an elf." Jake looked into her eyes and saw the same woman who had stood with dignity in chains on Kepler Station. Royal power had not changed the essential goodness that had made him fall in love with her. "Are you sure?" he asked. "I'm still just a human." "You're the human who saved my life and helped me save my people," Luna replied. "That makes you exactly the right person for the job." She kissed him then, and Jake realized that rescuing Luna had been the best decision he had ever made. He had thought he was saving one person, but instead he had helped create an alliance that would protect millions of lives.